The night Dean Martin whispered 5 words that destroyed a billionaire. The glass in Dean Martin's hand isn't apple juice tonight. It's a weapon, and what he's about to do with it in the next 90 seconds will destroy the most powerful man in this room. A billionaire, a whale, a man who thinks money makes him untouchable. Watch closely, because what Dean Martin whispers into this man's ear, just 5 seconds of whispering, will haunt him for the rest of his life. And nobody in that room, not even the mob bosses sitting 3 tables away, will see it coming. This is the story they didn't want you to know. It's a Tuesday night in 1964, the Sands Hotel and Casino, Las Vegas, the center of the universe. If you're here, you matter. If you're not, you don't exist. The Copa room is packed wall to wall with 800 people. The air is thick with cigarette smoke, expensive perfume, and the electric hum of power. High rollers, mob associates, politicians in $1,000 suits, tourists clutching their cameras, hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. Dean Martin is on stage, effortless, magnetic, pure charisma in a tuxedo. He's midway through That's Amore, toying with the crowd, pretending to forget the lyrics, making the ladies swoon and the men laugh. His tie is loose, his drink is in his hand. The world is right, the world is fun. This is Dean Martin doing what Dean Martin does best, making it all look easy. But down on the floor, moving between tables like a ghost, trying not to be seen, is Elena. Elena isn't a star. She isn't a high roller. She's 23 years old, invisible to people like the ones in this room, exhausted beyond words. Her feet are bleeding inside her cheap shoes, but she keeps smiling because she has to. Because back home in a cramped apartment on the wrong side of Vegas, her 2-year-old son is sleeping under the watch of a neighbor she can barely afford to pay. Elena needs this job. She needs the tips. She needs to survive in a city that chews up people like her and spits them out without a second thought. Tonight she's assigned to table 4, the whale table, the table where the real money sits. Sitting at table 4 is a man we'll call Mr. Sterling. New money, the worst kind, loud, aggressive, oil money from Texas that thinks it can buy class by the barrel. He's surrounded by sycophants, yes men who laugh too hard at his unfunny jokes and nod at his stupid opinions. Sterling has been drinking since noon, and his mood has shifted from boisterous to cruel. He's already sent back a perfectly good steak because it looked at him wrong. He's snapped his fingers at busboys like they're dogs. He's grabbed a cocktail waitress by the waist and laughed when she pulled away. And now his eyes are on Elena, not with kindness, not with respect, but with the predatory look of a man who enjoys breaking things just to see if they make a sound. "Hey, sweetheart," Sterling bellows, his voice cutting through the music and conversation like a knife. "My glass is empty. You blind or just stupid?" The men at his table laugh. They always laugh. Elena rushes over, her head bowed, her hands trembling. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll get you another right away." "Don't tell me you're sorry," Sterling sneers. And then he does something that makes the entire table go quiet. He grabs her wrist as she reaches for the glass. Hard, his fingers dig into her skin. "Tell me why I shouldn't have you fired right now." Elena's heart hammers against her ribs like it's trying to escape. She pulls her hand back gently, carefully, trying not to cause a scene, trying not to make it worse. "Sir, please, I'll get your drink." Sterling releases her with a cruel smile. "That's what I thought." On stage, the music is still playing. The band is swinging. Dean is joking with Ken Lane at the piano, cigarette dangling from his fingers. But Dean Martin has a gift that few people know about. Underneath those heavy eyelids, underneath that relaxed demeanor and that image of a man who doesn't care about anything, Dean Martin sees everything. He has the eyes of a hawk. He sees the shift in the room's energy. He sees the fear in that girl's shoulders. He sees the predator at table 4. He keeps singing, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes anymore. Elena returns with the drink, a double scotch, neat, in a heavy crystal glass, exactly how Sterling likes it. Her hands are shaking so badly she can barely hold the tray steady. As she leans in to place it on the white tablecloth, Sterling moves. It's subtle, just a quick jerk of his elbow, but it's intentional, calculated. The heavy crystal glass clips the edge of the tray. Crash! The sound explodes through the intimate room like a gunshot. Amber liquid splashes all over Sterling's custom-made Italian silk suit. Ice cubes skitter across the floor like frightened mice. The music doesn't stop immediately, but the audience does. Every head in the room turns. Every conversation dies mid-sentence. Sterling stands up, and his face turns a violent shade of purple. He doesn't just yell, he explodes with rage. "You clumsy little idiot. Do you know how much this suit costs? It costs more than you'll make in your entire pathetic lifetime." Elena is on her knees instantly, frantically trying to clean the mess with a napkin, tears streaming down her face, mascara running. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, sir. It slipped. I didn't mean." Sterling kicks the napkin from her hand. It isn't a hard kick, but the disrespect is brutal. The violence is in the gesture, not the force. "Manager, where the hell is the manager? I want this incompetent trash fired. I want her out of here now. Do you hear me? Now." The floor manager, a nervous man in a tuxedo named Richard, comes running across the floor, nearly tripping over himself. He begins apologizing profusely to Sterling, bowing and scraping, and then he looks at Elena with that look that says, "Pack your things, you're done, you're finished." Elena is sobbing now, a silent, shaking cry that comes from somewhere deep in her chest. She sees her rent money evaporating into smoke. She sees her son's food disappearing. She sees the neighbor's disappointed face when she can't pay her. She sees the end of her world unfolding on a casino floor while 800 people watch her humiliation. And that's when the music dies. It isn't a gradual fade. It doesn't trail off naturally. It stops abruptly, like someone cut the power. Dean Martin has turned to the band and made a sharp cutting motion across his throat. "Cut it, now." The silence that follows is heavy, suffocating, oppressive. 800 people hold their breath. You can hear ice melting in glasses. You can hear the ventilation system humming. You can hear your own heartbeat. Dean Martin stands at the center of the stage under the spotlight. The cigarette in his hand burns a long trail of smoke that rises toward the ceiling. He isn't swaying anymore. He isn't slurring his words or playing the lovable drunk. The Dino character, the persona, the mask, it has completely vanished. In his place stands a man from Steubenville, Ohio, a man who had worked in steel mills with his hands bleeding, a man who had dealt blackjack in illegal backrooms for $5 a night, a man who had boxed for pocket change and pumped gas and knew exactly, precisely, what it felt like to be small in a room full of giants. He places his microphone on the piano with a deliberate thump that echoes through the PA system. He walks to the edge of the stage. He doesn't take the stairs like a normal person. He hops down, landing softly on the carpeted floor with the grace of an athlete. He's 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, and in that moment, under those lights, with that look in his eyes, he looks 10 feet tall. He looks like a force of nature. He walks through the tables. The crowd parts for him, like the Red Sea parting for Moses. He doesn't acknowledge the fans reaching out to touch him. He doesn't look at the mob bosses in the front row, men who could have him killed with a phone call. He doesn't smile or wave or wink. He walks with purpose. He walks straight to table 4. Sterling is still fuming, still wiping his jacket with angry, aggressive movements. But when he sees Dean Martin approaching him, when he realizes the King of Cool is walking directly toward his table, he straightens up. His face shifts. He expects a joke. He expects the famous Dean Martin charm to diffuse the situation with a laugh and a quip. Maybe Dean will buy him a drink. Maybe he'll mock the waitress to make the rich guy feel better, to keep the whale happy. That's what entertainers do, right? They keep the money happy. They keep the power comfortable. Sterling forces a grin, showing too many teeth. "Dino, hey, look at this mess, huh? Can you believe the help these days? Unbelievable. But hey, good thing you're here to save the night, right?" Dean doesn't smile. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't stop walking until he's inches from Sterling's face, close enough that Sterling can smell the cologne and peppermint on Dean's breath, close enough to feel the heat coming off Dean's body. Dean looks down. The waitress is still on her knees on the floor, still trying to pick up ice cubes with shaking hands, still crying silently. Dean reaches down. His hand, perfectly manicured and adorned with a gold pinky ring, is surprisingly gentle. He takes Elena's arm and lifts her up with care, like she's made of glass. "Stand up, sweetheart," Dean says. His voice isn't the booming baritone of the stage. It's soft, tender, almost a whisper. You don't bow to him. You don't bow to anybody. Elena looks up at him through tear-filled eyes, her mascara running in black streams down her cheeks, terrified and confused. Mr. Martin, I need to. Dean hushes her gently. He takes the dirty napkin from her trembling hand and tosses it onto Sterling's table with casual contempt. Then he turns his full attention to Sterling. Sterling's grin falters. Something in Dean's eyes makes his stomach drop. Now hold on, Dean, Sterling says, his voice losing some of its confidence. She ruined my suit. You saw it. I'm a paying customer here. I spend $50,000 a weekend in this joint. I keep this place running. Dean looks at the suit, studies it for a moment. Then he looks Sterling directly in the eye. The air in the room becomes so tense you could hear a pin drop on carpet. You know, Dean says, his voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear but still remarkably calm, I've spilled more booze on my tuxedos than you've ever drank in your entire life. It dries, it cleans. Dry cleaner can fix it in a day. He pauses, but being a bully, that stain doesn't come out. That's permanent. Sterling bristles. His ego, his pride, his sense of power, all of it is being challenged in front of an audience. Excuse me, do you know who I am? I could buy and sell this hotel. I could buy and sell you. Dean takes one more step closer. This is the dangerous Dean. The Dean who knows guys who make problems disappear in the desert. The Dean who grew up in the streets and never forgot where he came from. You can buy the hotel, Dean says quietly. You can buy 10 hotels, but you can't buy class, and you certainly can't buy the right to treat a lady like dirt in my room. Your room, Sterling laughs, but it's nervous now. Forced. I pay your salary, Singer. That's the mistake, the fatal error. Dean doesn't hit him. He doesn't need to. Violence would be too easy, too simple. Instead, Dean leans in close, closing the distance until their noses almost touch. The entire showroom leans forward, straining to hear. What is he saying? What is happening? Is he going to punch him? Dean whispers something. Just 5 seconds. Maybe 6. His lips move. Sterling's face changes. The color drains from it, like someone pulled a plug. The arrogance, the swagger, the confidence, all of it evaporates like water on hot asphalt. His eyes go wide. His pupils dilate. He swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. He looks like he might be sick. Dean pulls back, straightens his tuxedo jacket with casual precision, and winks at Elena. Get your things, Dean says to Sterling, his voice returning to normal volume so everyone can hear, and get out of my casino. You can't kick me out, Sterling stammers, but he's already backing away, already looking for the exit. You can't. Dean looks at Richard, the floor manager, who's standing there trembling like a leaf. He's leaving, right now. Check is on the house, but if he ever sets foot in the sands again while I'm breathing, while I'm under contract here, I walk, and Frank walks, and Sammy walks, and this place becomes just another empty building in the desert. Are we clear? That's the nuclear option. Everyone in the room knows it. The sands without the Rat Pack is nothing. Just another casino. Just another building full of slot machines. The manager knows it. The owners upstairs know it. Sterling definitely knows it. Security. Richard calls out, finally finding his courage. Please escort Mr. Sterling out. 2 large men in dark suits appear from the shadows and flank Sterling. They don't touch him, but the message is clear. Sterling, still pale, still shaken, walks toward the exit without another word. The whale has been beached. The room is silent for one more agonizing second. Then it doesn't just applaud, it erupts, it roars. This isn't the polite applause you give after a song. This is the sound of respect, of admiration, of people witnessing something real in a city built on fakery. But Dean isn't done, not yet. He turns back to Elena, who's still standing there shaking, clutching her tray against her chest like it's a shield protecting her from the world. What's your name, honey? Dean asks gently. Elena, she whispers, barely audible. Dean reaches into his pocket. He doesn't pull out a wallet. He pulls out a money clip, a thick roll of $100 bills that he carries for tipping dealers and buying drinks and gambling. He doesn't count it, doesn't even look at it. He just takes the entire roll, easily several $1,000s, and presses it into Elena's hand, closing her fingers around it. Buy yourself a new dress, Dean says, flashing that $1 million smile that makes everything okay, and something nice for your kid. I know you got one. You got that mama bear look in your eyes. Elena looks at the money. Her eyes go wide. It's more than she makes in a year, maybe 2 years. Mr. Martin, I can't possibly. You can, Dean says firmly, but kindly. And you will. Consider it a tip for dealing with the garbage. Now go home, kiss that baby, and don't ever let anyone make you feel small again. Dean hops back onto the stage with surprising agility. He picks up his drink, the apple juice that everyone thinks is scotch, and raises it to the ceiling in a toast. Now, where were we? He asks the crowd. Ah, yes, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie. The band kicks in. The show goes on. Like nothing happened. Like the world didn't just shift on its axis. Elena is sent home early that night. Not as punishment, but with a personal security escort to make sure she gets home safe with all that cash. She never waits tables again. With that money, she enrolls in nursing school. She builds a real life. She raises her son in a better neighborhood. She becomes somebody. But for 50 years, the mystery remains. What did Dean Martin whisper to that billionaire? What 5 seconds of words could turn a raging, powerful tycoon into a frightened child? Some say Dean threatened to call his mob connections. Some say he described in graphic detail what would happen to Sterling in a dark alley. The legend grows. The story spreads. Everyone has a theory. Elena keeps the secret. She honors the man who saved her dignity, who gave her a future. But in 2014, at 83 years old, lying in a hospital bed with her son holding her hand, Elena finally tells the truth. She tells him what the King of Cool whispered that night in the smoke-filled Copa room. Dean Martin didn't threaten violence. He didn't mention the mob, or money, or power. He had looked Sterling dead in the eye and whispered, "I saw you watching her before the spill. You bumped her arm on purpose. If you don't walk out right now, I'm taking this microphone and telling every person in this room, including your wife sitting in Houston, exactly what kind of man you really are." Dean hadn't just seen a clumsy waitress. He had seen a predator. He had seen a powerful man deliberately creating a situation to humiliate and exploit a vulnerable woman. He had seen the oldest, ugliest game in the book, and he ended it. That was Dean Martin. The world saw the tuxedo, the cigarette, the drink, the easy smile. They saw the King of Cool who didn't have a care in the world. But that night, Dean Martin showed everyone who he really was. He was the man who noticed, the man who saw what others pretended not to see. And he understood that being cool isn't about how you wear your suit or hold your liquor. It's about how you treat the person cleaning up the mess.